Okay, I know I did a video about the third episode of She-Hulk saying that it broke me, and boy did it. But let's just say I got talked into watching episode 8 with Ervin because he was very curious about what they were going to do with Daredevil. So I watched it with him. I'm not going to lie, I already went into this thing hating it because I knew exactly what they were going to do, and it wasn't going to be very good on the end of Daredevil. But I will say this, from the reviews that I have seen so far, this episode was tolerable. I still didn't like it. I still don't think it was great, but it was definitely tolerable. Now, there are a lot of things that I didn't like about this episode, and there were a few things. Actually, one thing that I liked about this episode, and I'm going to go into the one thing I liked. I like the chemistry between Tatiana Maslany and Charlie Cox. They have amazing chemistry together. And I'm not going to lie, I caught myself shipping them. I really did want She-Hulk and Daredevil to get together. And from what I heard in the comics, they already have. Probably many times. But the chemistry between those two were really, really good. And I honestly did enjoy them being on screen together. Now, a lot of people like the fact that Jim Walters got annihilated by Matt Murdock in that courtroom scene. But there was one thing that I didn't catch, because I guess I was already kind of talking to Ervin on the phone about it, and I missed this until I saw Thorius Unlimited, aka Fool Killer, when I actually did see his review on it recently about She-Hulk, about the same episode. And there was one thing that I did not catch. I didn't catch the fact that the Sokovia Accords was repealed. The one thing that was the major drive in Civil War, the one thing that broke up the Avengers, the one thing that gave Nemo his purpose in the entire movie, and actually did create a rift between team members, old and new. You're going to repeal that? And honestly, it made sense. With superheroes pretty much destroying things right and left, and especially what not Black Widow, but especially what the Scarlet Witch did, and accidentally killing a human, using a human bomb and blowing up a building and hurting a lot of people, it made sense for those Accords to come through. But to be honest with you, the fact that they repealed it, okay. I'm going to get into this looking at both sides. When it comes to repealing the Sokovia Accords, Ervin mentioned one thing that they could have done. They actually could turn everything on its head. That there'll be more superheroes not being accountable for what they do. And they can actually see the damage of repealing it or making a story out of it. Thorius Unlimited made a huge point. They could have used that in a lawyer drama about the Sokovia Accords and how the Sokovia Accords can actually be played into into Jen being She-Hulk and having her to be forced to sign over her identity. They could have used many outlets, whether something to change, to become a game changer, or something that could actually fit a lawyer drama. They could have done so much with that one aspect. And they decided to completely retcon it because they ran out of ideas. I understand why Thorius was upset when I saw that review. I was upset because they did it out of laziness. It wasn't the fact that, that they changed it to have something with it, to do something with it, that they changed it on purpose to create something different with it. They just did it because they ran out of ideas. Because thinking is too hard. Because being creative is too hard. That's why they did it. That's the one thing that annoys me in a lot of movies and in a lot of TV series. And they did it here. It was ridiculous. It was like pretty much not really a blink that you miss it. I didn't even pay attention to it until it got brought up. And I was like, really? But anyway, having the one good thing pushed aside, which was definitely Charlie Cox, because he has a really great personality, and he totally works well with Tatiana Maslany, who's also a very likable person when it comes to the character she plays. There was a lot that bothered me about this episode, and I will get into the end later. The thing is that when it comes to this entire show as a whole, they don't have a credible build for a villain, and they don't have a credible build for an end game. It doesn't make you excited at all for the finale. The one thing that Jen said, and this should have been the premise of She-Hulk in itself, that would have taken the entire show in a different direction, is that She-Hulk was always in control. That Jen Walters was always in control of She-Hulk, and she was always controlling her anger. At the very end of the episode, she raged because the intelligentsia, which are a bunch of idiots, I might add, put up a whole bunch of stuff that was on her phone, hacked her phone, put everything that was up there from bills to texts to all this, and of course they had to put a sex tape up there, or at least a recording up there, and humiliate her. The one thing that made her lose control, saying from the very beginning that she had control of her anger, they could have went somewhere with it. But to be honest with you, if they cut off at the point when she was actually wearing a dress to the gala, if they cut off and went straight to the credits and not have an end credit scene, I would have been fine. It would have been okay. It would have been a pretty decent episode. And it would have made me more interested to find out what was going to happen to the next episode. But they continued. Now, when it comes to the whole scene between Daredevil and She-Hulk, let's be real. The fact that Synovia Accords got repealed, this is definitely kind of mocking that in a way. I mean, maybe mocking is not a good word for it, but at the end of the day, it made no sense to put that out there. But then, ironically, you have She-Hulk destroying property right and left, putting people in danger in a car park or a parking lot to Americans. And then, of course, you have her bust through the ceiling when Daredevil was having an argument with her on the roof about being stealthy and trying to get through stealthy. He took out 5 enemies or 5 goons, whatever, and they argued between a goon and never mind, I'm not getting into that. But the fact is, you had him going through there stealthily, busting up people in the hallway. Then all of a sudden you have She-Hulk busting through the ceiling and pretty much crushing people in concrete with absolutely no repercussions whatsoever. The fact that people are aware of her identity, you would think that her working with a vigilante, a well-known vigilante, okay, who's supposed to be well-known, but somehow Jen ended up making fun of him about that, not knowing who he is and making fun of his costume. I don't know, maybe they wanted to go back to Spider-Man No Way Home and that cringy scene where Peter Parker was making fun of Dr. Otto Octavius' name, which I absolutely hated in that movie. That was the one scene I did not like. But anyhow, instead of him being a very well-known vigilante, which he should be in this universe, he was just not known at all. Really? But anyway, the whole premise of her owning her identity, owning her anger, or at least being able to control her anger, not so much owning it, but controlling her anger and knowing her identity and owning it. You would think that there'll be repercussions for her as She-Hulk working with a vigilante such as Daredevil, but none whatsoever. Leapfrog, from what I've heard, was always supposed to be a joke. So with him being a joke, I'm not gonna lie, was absolutely hilarious when he was like, you know, when he jumped out the window and his boots didn't work. I'm sorry, it was pretty funny. But anyway, the thing is, he was supposed to be a one-off joke villain, which I'm like, okay. But it also makes Jen look more inept at her job than she's ever looked. And these are female writers writing for her. That's the sad part. You would think with her being a woman that they would do something to not make her look like a total idiot, or at least get some type of consulting from lawyers to know how to write a lawyer drama. Hell, why don't you actually find one of the old writers from Ally McBeal and actually talk to them and get some advice? Because Ally McBeal was actually a pretty decent drama. Yes, it was campy and it was 90-ish, but there's so many lawyer dramas out there, from Law and Order to, if you want to do sitcom based, Ally McBeal. There were plenty other sitcoms out there they could have found some kind of a writer to get some type of knowledge from to make this work. Because Jen looks like a moron every single time she's on the screen. You're telling me that you didn't bother to ask your client, if what fuel he used for the shoes, for the jet shoes. You didn't ask him what he used or get any further information. You're going to go straight to the defendant and you're going to tell her, well, there's no lawsuit yet, but if you pay for that, okay, you haven't even done your research to find out what he used for those jet shoes, which wasn't even part of the instructions, I might add. She was completely annihilated by Matt Murdock. Completely annihilated by Matt Murdock in that courtroom scene. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for her. Tatiana Maslany deserves better. She really does. She deserves better. But yeah, they were definitely pushing the chemistry between Matt Murdock and Jim Walters very, very hard. And I caught myself shipping them. I caught myself shipping them hard. And I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind if they became a thing. But the thing is, in the comics, they're known to be incredibly, I can't really think of the word right now, but I'm just going to say they're pretty active. I'll say this. But to be honest with you, besides the shipping, yeah, I'm going to get to the one thing that made every fan cringe. Every fan absolutely hate this series even more. The Walk of Shame. Why? What was the reason for the Walk of Shame when everyone knows that actually watched the Netflix series that Daredevil is prided on his stealth? He goes out of his way to stay out of the shadows and to make sure no one knows about him unless he wants you to know. You're going to have him not only in the uniform they put him in, I think it was like what, gold and red? They had him in the gold and red uniform with his shoes off. He was wearing boots and he was walking in the grass at broad daylight. Why? Why? And of course, this is something that Jim was going to gloat about. Look, 2 consenting adults having a nightcap, one leaving. Of course, if it wasn't their house, it wasn't going to stay till the next morning. For those who are adults, we know what that is. And of course, they deemed it the Walk of Shame, but it's 2 consenting adults. And not only that, it's not even that bothered me that much. It was the fact that it was unnecessary. It did nothing for the story. It did nothing for the plot. It really downgraded Daredevil a bit because he's a lot more than that. And it was sad. It was not needed at all. The intelligentsia, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. After I found out about the ending and who they were actually copying, I looked into Doomcock's video. And he's known as Overlord DVD. I actually have seen some of his reviews. And his reviews are pretty fair. But you're telling me that you're going to take known people from YouTube or internet trolls because you get butthurt about people criticizing your ridiculous, horrible, awfully written show. If awfully is a word, but I'm making that a word for right now. It's an incredibly awful, pathetic, poorly written show that people, even if they're not diehard Marvel fans, are saying the exact same thing. It's not funny at all. It mocks men at every turn, which is not even a need to. It's not even a good lawyer drama. And everyone is saying it across the board. And you're saying that you're going to target a few YouTubers because you're butthurt and heartbroken that no one likes your crap. Sad, really. You choose an internet troll to be a villain. You don't mention the fact that Jen's blood was already taken from, I guess, the guy that she had a nightcap with before. And I'm just saying nightcap just to be a bit PG. But anyway, you're telling me that the guy that she had a one-night stand with, that stole her blood, which is the one thing that Bruce said you have to protect yourself from, and how dangerous it can be if it gets in the enemy hands. They forget about all that. It's really, really sad. It's 100% sad how poorly written this episode is. This entire series is poor. Even if you have Daredevil there, it's not going to save the series. It's not going to save the show. The show is still trash. The episode itself was tolerable. Why? Because of the chemistry between Tatiana Maslany and Charlie Cox. amazing chemistry between the two. But the setup leading up to the finale is not even a build. It's not even there. It's really, really sad. No stakes at all. Jen is pretty much a narcissistic jerk to where why would you even care? And at the point when you're supposed to care, they make you try not to care, even though she has every right to be upset, because she was violated. Her entire personal life was put on blast without her permission. She has every right to be mad, and this is for an award show that's supposed to be praising her and everyone's knowing her business. She has every right to be upset. This show was butt backwards, as this entire series was butt backwards. But the fact is, this was a tolerable episode, but it doesn't necessarily save the series. To be honest with you, I'm not even that curious to find out what's going to happen the next episode. I really don't care about the finale. I don't. Just like I don't care about Ms. Marvel, I don't. And I know Ervin's going to probably watch it, so if you check out his videos, if he actually does do a point of view, I have no idea if he is or not, but I am done. That's the last time I'm ever going to say anything more about She-Hulk. But I am curious to hear what you guys think about episode 8. What do you think about their treatment towards Daredevil? Do you guys think they gave him a little bit of dignity? Because in my opinion, they did not. And what did you think about the episode overall? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know how you feel. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.